Hello there. Today we're doing another episode interviewing game developers. And I have with me today Jared McCluskey, and he is the CEO of the Mirror game development platform. And what the Mirror is, well, you know what? I'm going to let Jared explain to you what the Mirror is because I already know what it is. I'm just going to go over to here and hello, Jared.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, good to see you.
Awesome to have you
So,
with me. Go ahead and tell the people.
so the Mirror is an all-in-one game development platform. So think like taking a full-blown game engine. We're built on the open source GODOT engine, and then add everything around it that you need to quickly make a game. And so that includes everything from authentication to databases, your netcode, your deployments, your distribution, your platform, your payments, your asset marketplace, like everything all in one. So a far easier way to make games and get stuff out. And regardless of your skill level, we offer both no code ways with visual scripting, more advanced if you want to write GD script, which is kind of like Python in world. And we have a lot of features in the pipeline, but that's a super quick high level of what it is. But the why behind it is that we are also, just like Godot, 100% open source. So everything you create, you can 100% own all of, which is not really the case with other game engines on the market right now.
And so to that point, when I was talking to you down in California there at GDC, you were saying how you've built this on top of the Godot technology and you've actually got your own version of the Godot engine that you forked off specifically for this project. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So Godot is great. That was actually one of the biggest impetuses where we were like, oh, we should do this because there hasn't been much of a viable open source engine to date that you really want to seriously use. I mean, there've been some great honorable mentions, but even if you look at Steam charts nowadays, really, I think last looked of the top six engines, only three are general purpose, and so that's Unity, Unreal, and now Godot. And then if you look at itch as well, there are more games published with Godot on itch nowadays, more so than Unity. So it's hit amazing traction. The core team has done an amazing job. And we're very grateful to Ario Mansour, one of the co-founders of Godot, who helps us out as an advisor. And so all this coming together we started a bit before the Godot 4 release. We're on the latest Godot 3 version. And it's the great thing too is it's not just a good open source engine, it's just a good engine, period. Really a pleasure to use. And of course, it's hackable because it's open source. So you don't have to worry about another company not listening to your support ticket or not listening to the community. It's just like, well, find other people who are working on it yourself, make the fix yourself, make the feature yourself. Super extendable. So all in all, we said, hey, this is perfect, and decided to move forward with Godot.
Awesome, awesome. Um, so to that point, yeah, you chose Godot that way, but there are some other ones like the Lumberyard spinoff, OD3 engine, and of course Unity and Unreal. So you said why you like the Godot engine and stuff, but why did you choose it over one of those three? Because those other three are some pretty big players in and OD3 is open source as well. So why did you choose? Was it just because of the community and the structure and how it's such a modern structure? Was there other reasons?
Very much as mentioned, it's truly a good engine. The architecture was a huge consideration. Godot is also very lightweight. Surprisingly, you download it, and if I recall correctly, like a new download will be less than 500 megabytes. If you look at Unreal, for example, you're easily downloading 100 gigabytes. So that alone is like, okay, hey, this is good. Another key consideration is that Godot is much more, I mean, not like technically to a T, but broadly, it's more of a runtime engine where it's a little known, actually well known secret now that the Godot editor is actually a Godot application. And that is amazing. Like, I love that because to give you some backstory, I built an online business in the virtual world of Second Life as a kid. And it had that same runtime feel where we could be very much like the movie Inception, building a world together. And it's not, there's no distinction between like building or playing. We're just building and creating and playing and doing everything all at once. It's really an amazing experience. Second Life had a bit of that. And so that's what's inspired a lot of our UX for the mirror. And we couldn't have done that really without more of a runtime engine. So it wasn't just the open source side. It was, oh, this architecture is actually fantastic for what we want to do. So it was just the stars aligned. So we're really grateful to the awesome architects, awesome coders behind Godot.
Cool, cool. So on that note, since you brought up your history in the Second Life engine, why don't you tell us a little more about who you are and some of your other project history?
Yeah. So the Second Life one was really big. For some more of the backstory there, oh man, I was like a Second Life weapons dealer, I guess, because I was selling scripts that were weapons, armor, tanks, mechs, you name it, and had a real online business in middle school, selling these for the Linden dollar, so the in-game currency, and then converting that to US dollars. This is after saving up enough money to buy a gaming laptop from mowing lawns. Like I said, just loved it. It was a good time. And the 3D models that I was selling, I was playing a match one day and match, quote unquote, in Second Life. Yeah, I was like in a weapons sandbox and duking it out with some guys. Noticed this guy across the map who had the exact same armor and guns as me. And I was like, wait, I built that. Hold up. And just like this custom model I hadn't released. And yeah, the guy it's called copy botting. This guy had hacked into the system, stole the 30 models, and then was just selling them himself. And there was nothing I could do about it. Like as a seventh grader, do you file a DMCA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act claim? Like, no, it's just, there's really nothing I could do. And so that's always stuck in my head it's like a very kind of eye-opening moment. And there have been similar stories over time of, just from people getting kicked off a platform for whatever reason, legit or not. Eventually I was thinking, I've always had in the back of my head ever since that I would love to start a full-blown game platform, kind of like Second Life, coming all together with the real-time development aspects like Inception, combining that with real ownership for everything you create. So thus, the open source side and the runtime engine of Godot just made perfect sense. So just like Godot, when you build in the mirror, you can fully 100% own everything you create. If something catastrophic were to happen, like someone stealing your stuff, well, you can always take your game with you. And so that's a big inspiration for this.
Right, right. No, that makes sense. Yeah, funny how those things kind of stick with you, especially when it's like, wait a sec, I made that. How did you get it?
Kind of surreal and scary.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially grade seven, right? Yeah, crazy.
it's yeah.
So
So
what game? So gaming. Just I always ask this of everybody. And I haven't had that many interviews yet, but I always ask them, when you were growing up, what video game genre, what type, console or whatever. What was your experience that got the passion burning in you for games?
wow, I love this question. So going all the way back, I remember my dad had. Did you ever use Bryce 3D modeling software?
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. He had a copy of Bryce 5, and I was like, this is cool. You make a quick nature scene, make a beach, some mountains.
It's
It was
great for
like very, yeah, just a
palm
blast.
trees.
So
It was best for palm trees. You can make the best palm trees in it.
trees, yeah, amazing software, just beautiful stuff. I even like printed off a picture of a 3D render and brought it to my third grade class. My teacher, of course, was like, "What's this?" And just puts it on the whiteboard. And I was like, "Yay!" So that was like the original start, and then I got really into RuneScape. Like RuneScape and Second Life are the top two of all time where I'm just like, I'm still chasing that high. Like it was so good and fun, and so eventually I was like, I got to make my own RuneScape. So I went and see. I think we went to Fry's Electronics back in the day and found something called Dark Basic. Are you familiar with Dark Basic, by chance?
1 second.
Oh heck yeah! No way! Amazing, amazing.
I think everyone who's a game dev at some point has had some of their products, right? It's like Dark Basic is the classic.
Yeah, so good, so good. They did a very good job. Very simple. That was the first one I got started with, the Dark Basic Original, then upgraded to Dark Basic Pro. Trying to create my own RuneScape. That was one, and I was playing a lot of Command and Conquer, Red Alert. I was
Oh
also trying to
yeah.
make my own like Red Alert RTS, and yeah, never really kind of went too far. I always want like as a game developer, you're always like, oh, this is gonna be big. You're gonna throw in all the features, and then at some point you either whittle down scope or it sputters out or something like that. So as a fifth grader at the time, I was like gonna write my own web server for it too, and I knew nothing about web development, and so that just never happened. Eventually, though, what I loved was finding Second Life because that very similar to the Mirror's inspiration of an all-in-one platform. Boom, it's just everything works. You're a character that runs around. You automatically have a scripting system. You have a player system. authentication, databases, networking, all that you need to make a game. Now it's just script it. And so that's where I kind of stopped on the formal game engine side. I went more to like the called an engine slash platform side of Second Life, and then continued that.
Cool. No, that's pretty cool. It all makes sense. Like I find when I talk to people these stories, it's like a lot of people have similar beginnings when they get into game dev, especially the indie game devers, right? And but then when you get out of that hobbyist and into the actual indie mode and start working towards a product, it's like a lot of these stories. You find these laterals like the Dark Basic and starting with the games and then wanting to reverse engineer that in your head to make it your own flavor. And it's a common theme that comes up over and over again, right? Like there's so much people don't give coders and developers as much credit for being creative, and they don't realize that yeah, you're writing code and stuff all day as a developer, but it's because those creative juices are flowing that you got into it in the first place because you want to create. Your mind wants to create, and people don't make that connection, right? Yet it's so very strong, and a lot of it I think comes from playing video games as a kid, right?
It does. Yeah, spot on. There's coding is very much an art as much as it is a science. The creativity of it is insane. It's very satisfying to build something and create it and say, "Hey, I made this," and show it to someone. And it's not just like satisfying because you can do that with an art piece, like you're painting something, but coding takes it to the next level because it's this very surreal moment of you talk and then you write stuff, but it's just now you're writing something on a screen and then you hit a button and now things happen. It's like whoa. It's just I love it ever since I got into code as a kid. Never really wanted to stop. It's very fun, very challenging at the same time.
And the thing is too is I don't know if you could truly call it instant gratification because it's not instant. It takes time to. With visual coding and stuff now, it's a lot quicker. I'll give it that. And with the tools we have at our disposal, so much easier for a single person to accomplish something. But there is that instant gratification when you hit that button, that run button. So yeah, there's that build up and the time it takes to build something. But even if you're doing something as simple as I don't know, character chopping down a tree, maybe it took you 3 days to get that working right, get the models lined up and the coding and whatever. But when you hit that run and you go in there and you walk up to that tree and you chop it down with that axe, the gratification as making that work, you have that supercharged sense of accomplishment, and it's that energy that anyone doing game dev understands, I think. And yeah, there's that build up and sometimes a lot of frustration, but then when you hit that run button and you do that task you said about yourself, it's like, I don't know, it's like the endorphins go off.
Oh yeah, big time. But I forget what the name of that chart is, but it's plotting the like difficulty versus satisfaction to essentially find like what is the point at highest motivation. It's not too hard, but it's not too light, not too easy of tasks. It's like that in between, and that's where coding and game development perfectly is. Because you're right, you are having to push through, and it's really hard, but you get there and you're just over the moon.
Yeah, totally, totally. So on that point, getting getting the mirror going as a project, like when you had the concept after the Second Life stuff, as you were saying, but how did that actually evolve, and how did that like come to be once you actually started working on it from laying down the whiteboard, the concept or the Trello or whatever you use, to putting it into practice, to using it, to building it out? Like how did your concept of I'm going to make another Second Life, but my own version of it, to where the mirror is today, like how did that process evolve as you worked through?
Yeah, good question. It was really more of an evolution over about a year, roughly, because from the time I discovered Godot, and this was around the time of the pandemic, 2020, 2021, and it was kind of like about trade. I'm a web dev um, before the mirror, not as much like actual tons of game dev. So discovering Godot, I felt like I was rediscovering that same excitement from when I was developing games as a kid. That sort of dropped me back into it. And so it wasn't like anything instant. As I mentioned, yeah, I've always had that thought in the back of my head of creating another Second Life. And I just posted on Reddit about, hey, like, here's what we should do. We should be 100% open source, but it's going to be massive. So we got to have, engineers, designers, this, that, all this stuff. It was just like kind of a Hail Mary, like, hey, who's interested? Let's just chat and see what we can do. And I didn't really touch it much. Got some feedback on Reddit, some nah, but I created a Discord, and so that was really it. I didn't do much else. I did have I love whiteboards, so I just had some ideas for a sketch out on whiteboard. So you walk around the house, you see that all day, and so it's kind of in the back of your head. And then I just saw more people slowly trickling into the Discord over time. Not a crazy amount, but it was enough to where I was like, wait a second, there's actually something here. And so, all in all, it was over the course of about a year where eventually I was like, I know this is crazy, but I think I need to just quit my job and do this, and just took the plunge. And very thankfully, I've always done freelance software development, so that was my plan to just pay the bills if that did, things with the mirror didn't pan out. But eventually took the plunge and went into it full time.
Cool. No, that's awesome. And then you were talking to me. A lot of guys don't get into this, but you were talking to me when we were down at GDC there a little bit about the how important the capital venture side of things is in order to get funding and stuff. And I know that a lot of hobbyists and indie guys don't ever think about that until they're actually ready to take a product to market. And I know there's a lot of mistakes made or just no information really out there. There's a couple of guys talking about it, but not so much the whole process or any details of it, but maybe any up and coming hobbyists or indie developers out there that are thinking about needing some sort of investment or back or anything. Do you have any advice or any tips on how they can go about that? And now, of course, this will be different depending on your locale. So it might be different in Canada than in France, than in the U.S., than in Brazil. But I think the concepts will all pretty much be the same. And maybe you could touch on the basic concepts of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of thoughts here. This is a good discussion. So, because typically, well, historically, games go through the hey, pitch to publisher route. The studio gets funded, then there's this split in some format, and the publisher helps market it while the studio develops the game. That's the traditional route. And we're in an interesting spot because gaming as a venture capital investment hasn't really been much of a thing up until the past, call it, I would say roughly 8 years, 2016, 2017 plus. And that there's a few notable venture capital firms that have spawned up on the scene and it's starting to really get pushed forward, which is awesome for the industry. And one of the main topics about it is just the sheer market size of gaming. If you take music and movies, both of which are about $26 billion roughly, compared to gaming is about $184 billion. And so it's about 4x the size of music and movies combined. So it's like, this is massive. Like, why aren't more people talking about this as like a really good thing to look at investing? And so I bring that up though, as far as the size, because I think that's one of well, I guess it isn't too different from a publisher putting money into a studio you want to make a hit. Venture capital is very, very similar in that sense. Different in the sense that they may not always invest in games, but they're looking for whatever it has that massive return to fully capture a giant market, or as much as you can capture that market. So on the advice side, it's really good that there's a lot of VCs starting to look at gaming very seriously now, as of the past 8 years. Off the top of my head, some are like Convoy, they're one of our investors. Bitcraft, they really push things forward. And Andreessen Horowitz is doing a lot, especially with their speedrun program, which actually applications are still open today for the Speedrun 3. They're doing awesome work in the space to push the gaming scene forward. And so it's starting to become much more legitimate as like something that venture capitalists look at. So that's kind of the very quick high level about it. The difference though is if you like take the range of venture capital firms that will invest in gaming, there's kind of the split between, okay, is it a tool that we're investing in? Is it a platform? Like the mirror would be in the platform category, or Roblox also, because as they did I think the first venture round like 2006, 2007, could be wrong on that. And then, or are you like just the typical game round? Because now just games are like that publisher model is also applying to some VC firms. One that comes to mind is the Games Fund does it. Also, Bitcraft as well, Lightspeed as well. They'll just invest from the game side. And usually those are still for like, very pushing the envelope type concepts, but awesome stuff. And similar model though, so it's not as much like a publisher helping you market. They're very much investing in a business, and they may still offer some marketing help. But um, I'm not bringing up a lot of points there. But the key thing to note that is they're investing in a startup, and they'll each have their own theses for going about it. But that's the approach to take it, which is can be a little different than like raw pitching a game to a publisher.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that
Yeah, that
makes
was
sense.
a thought dump on a lot of things. Happy to dive in on any of those.
No, no, that's good. No, I wanted to cover the basics there just to let people know because a lot of people don't even know what those concepts are or what a venture capitalist is. Like a lot of people don't know that they're basically private banks that want to give you money to get a return on their money, and it's like a lot of game developers and hobbyists in particular, the thoughts have never crossed their mind. So it's good for them to know because these things, although it's getting much more affordable to be an indie slash hobbyist now because the computers are so much more powerful. You don't need dedicated workstations or anything anymore, supercomputers to run these things. Well, unless you get Unreal Engine, then you still need kind of a supercomputer to run it. But
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
there's a lot more, and a lot of the tools, like Real Illusions Character Creator for a home hobbyist doesn't want to spend any money. Daz Studio, Mixamo. There's AccuRig, a bunch of those. There's a Blender. There's a bunch of tools out there where you don't have to spend the money you would for Maya or Blender, or you don't have to pay for a full commercial license of Unity. And I guess now, if you get the newest version, pay for every time it's installed, and all these sorts of things, right? Like there's a lot of expenses, but there's a lot of ways that you don't need to spend anymore. But that kind of stops when you want to get your product to market. And that's when you're going to need those venture capitalists. As you're going to need those to take you to that because marketing, advertising, promotion, third-party promotion, like that's a huge one. I mean, yeah, we've got all the social media and stuff, and that does wonders. But that's not going to get you into a top tier list of wish listing or anything, right? So,
I mean, I would say there's aspects of it where it could, but everyone's doing that now. So how do you stand out? And yeah, having good backers who are connected, who just the funds to market it, put more content out there. Go to events, conferences. Like marketing is a massive beast that's totally separate from development, but absolutely needed to make your game succeed. And I think there's, this is a myth we see in a lot of industries of the overnight success because you'll see the hits that explode, like we see Power World, for example, but that's the exception. That's not the norm. And you just gotta, there's a lot of reps to put in to really market something, the time with that.
yeah, like Vampire Hunter or whatever, like that. What was it? Vampire. I don't know. Anyway, it had like no marketing. It was just like guy put it out there on a wish list, and all of a sudden it took off and became super popular. And it's like, wow, okay, a bullet hell game just made it on the top tier list.
Yeah, yeah. And
But
one thing I would add too, because you mentioned the advice side, um, diving like seeking venture capital is if you're fundraising like all in on it, that's definitely a full time job. So like there's the balance of it's always a judgment call of okay, do I really want to go out and fundraise now, or am I gonna keep on improving my product? So it's that kind of balance, or like doing my own social media marketing. Some of the best advice though is really at the end of the day, it's not cliche. It's really a relationship business. So people are people, investors are people. Just get to know them. And what's good too is as venture capital has grown, because it used to be 20 years ago, there's only a small handful of VCs. Nowadays, there's a lot of them out there, and so they're also looking for good things to invest in. And so I've overall had a very good experience. Just think of it, you're building relationships with people. With that too means by nature of us all being connected on the internet, there's a lot of noise, and so they want to find that signal in the noise. And I personally think one of the best ways is still just meet people in person. And so I live in a good game development city in San Francisco, and so that's been good just for going to meetups, going to coffee shop networking events, being like, hello. Like that's really just what it takes. It's not there's I don't think there's any massive way to do it other than just one by one, keep on meeting people and build that relationship over time.
well, I
And then,
would. Sorry, I
sorry.
was just gonna say I would agree. I mean, that's one of the main reasons I came down to GDC this year. I mean, where I live, it's not a inexpensive jaunt. It's not just a hop in a car and or a $99 plane flight. Like it was a pretty it was a pretty big endeavor to get down there this year, and yeah, that's what I did. I networked. I met with a lot of people. I met yourself. You were actually one of the people on my list, so that was good.
Thanks.
Check that list off there. But yeah, it was met a bunch of people, a few CEOs like yourself, a few engineers, a couple of indie developers, and yeah, I guess. And besides complaining to Adobe for some of their design ideas or marketing ideas and price pointing, I guess. That was the other big thing on my list was go pitch out Adobe. But I love their
Nice,
product. I
nice.
love their products. Depending on what. But they got some ridiculous plans for education. It's like we're only going to go to college level. We're not going to go into the K to 12. We're going to do. It's like why wouldn't you get people hooked at the K to 12? That's when they get them hooked. Then they're lifelong users of your product. It just to me it
Yeah.
was ridiculous, right? But whatever. Anyway, I'm
I
getting on.
mean,
I'm going on a side tangent.
oh, you're spot on. I mean, we both know Dark Basic. If that was, that could have been the Unreal if it kept on improving, being worked on. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more factors than that, but you're spot on. Like that really compounds over time.
Yeah, yeah, true. And people get like Game Guru Max is one of the game engines that I actually use right now. It's just in version 1, and it doesn't have third party. There's a bunch of things it's lacking, but there's a bunch of things they've done awesome in it. And it's these guys. It's their newest product out there, and
Oh, cool. I
and
gotta
it's
check this
actually
out.
it's a really good engine, but it's probably I'm gonna say the best standalone game engine for if you're into first person shooter making, because that's all it does right now is first person shooter. Um, you want an easy to learn game engine with very good visuals, and you can pick it up really cheap and actually make something out of the box on your first day. Now, of course, you can get more and more complicated. It has full Lua scripting support and stuff like that. But again, it's the evolution of decades and decades of Lee's work over at the Game Creators. And everybody's got to start somewhere, and you got to move through. And none of these products that we see that are at all usable are anyone's first jaunt into the genre. And they've been doing things. I mean, like yourself, what 20 years been doing this for?
As far as game development,
Yeah.
yeah, going back to Second Life days, I had some hiatuses, which is a story in itself. But short answer is, yeah, I started, yeah, at least 20 years ago now.
Yeah, and I've been on and off doing it since the Apple II days. So,
But
it's like nobody comes out with a good product on their first hit. Um, but some people take their first product and then they evolve it and they work with it and it gets better and better and better. And in this day and age, you can actually do rapid iteration, kind of like what you're doing. You said your release cycle has been stepped up on your current product, right? Now, it's not the first thing you've ever tried to make. It's not your first product out of the get go. It's your first major public released product. But I mean, how many different things have you built on and built on in order to get to the point where you've been able to put this thing together, right? It didn't happen overnight.
no, not at all. Yeah, and you're spot on there. Like I mentioned, I've been more of a web dev professionally by trade. Game dev is more like side stuff, hobby, childhood. And yeah, many swings at the bat to try to make a web app type startup succeed. And so there's been a lot of scrapped code, a lot of iterations, and but it's cool. You're right about the iterative aspect because sometimes the things you learn are not necessarily like it can seem useless in the moment or like you really tried and failed and it's easy to beat yourself up a lot. But then there's a lot of times where that comes back and you're like, wait, I'm really glad I did that because now I know XYZ and I can throw this in here and boom, we've got this new thing. And so
Exactly.
it's that compounding over time that really adds up. And for the mirror, that's been really good for us because I think one of the biggest things that's been lacking with game engines is the web development side, where yeah, there's a lot of great multiplayer out of the box networking packages, but well, what if you still want to have out of the box authentication, databases, analytics, all that, without really having to worry. Like there's some small proprietary stuff out there, but not like an all-in-one product. And that's why, well, we throw on the web development side, and now we've got a full stack of everything that not that many others are doing kind of a similar model. So that's just one example there of that how that compounds over time, even if it may not be directly related.
Well, and on that point, not everyone's doing a similar model. There are a few out there, but I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Like I think that the Roblox has some really good tools and stuff in it, and it's great, but it is limited in my mind's eye to more of a synthy type of view. So anyone who doesn't know, synthy's a particular style of models. They look like slightly better versions of Lego blocks, kind of. Like they're a low poly, as even though they're not truly low poly, they're designed to look low poly, and that's kind of what the RoboBlocks is going for. And then more recently, and then there was the core engine, which is based on the Unreal 4 package. I do not believe they've updated. I haven't looked at their site for a while. And the tools in there are really good and really powerful, actually really comparable to the mirror, which we're going to take a look at in just a minute here. But their iteration and their launch page and the way that they roll it out, their dashboard and stuff, it's just horrible. It's just not a pleasure to use. It doesn't make sense. It's not intuitive. Whereas the mirror is. And what I'm going to do right now. Oh, sorry. The other one was the new entry into the fray, the Unreal Fortnite version. They just did a big launch at GDC. They got a bunch of new zones and they've got a bunch of different things, and they're jumping into that arena. They're a bit of a latecomer, and their technology is amazing and stuff. But even there, they're doing it different. They're basically just saying go into Fortnite and build your own worlds in Fortnite. I don't think they're implementing yet. Maybe they have, but I don't think they're implementing any monetization of assets or anything. But I think it's coming.
They do monetization of the islands that you create.
Okay.
They've paid out a lot. I think it was 500 million.
Really?
And
Okay. I didn't think it was quite here yet. I thought they were still kind of early in that stage, but I stand corrected.
yeah, so that's why we call ourselves an open source Roblox and UEFN alternative, because we put both of those in the same category. And of course, those are closed source, or at least proprietary. You can't let it's
Yeah, yeah.
they got the licensing behind it. So we're very much in that same all-in-one platform model.
So I'm just going to move you off screen here right now, and you'll be able to continue talking here. But what I'm going to do, oh, let me just, sorry, one second. I'm just going to shrink this so I can still see you. People on the video don't need to see you, but I think I should probably still see you. And I'm just going to pull up the mirror here and give people an idea of what we're talking about now, because there's enough information I think that you've provided for them and that I've added to that people probably want to check this out and see what it's all about. So when you pull it up, the first thing you've got is a nice interface here. So you've got an easy nav bar across the top, easy settings icon, very recognizable, clean interface, and then right to the point. You get popular levels here. You get recently accessed, including my test space. And then if you continue to scroll down, you can pin favorites by rating it with stars, I believe is correct. Is that
5 stars will favorite it.
so? If you're playing someone else's level that they've created, like say this one here that you did this one, didn't you, Jarrett? Shooting gallery, was that you?
Just it, yeah.
So if I wanted to, and I wanted to give that a star here, where do I hit star? Do I have to go into it to start, or can I start from
I
here?
can go into it. So click the image or click view. There
Okay,
we go.
there we go. And then I can give it a 5 star. And then in theory, I don't need to join it now, do I? I've done the rating. I can just go back to my home. In theory, oh, back to spaces right here. Sorry, nice clean interface. And if I scroll down to favorites, it's now been added to my favorites. So as an end user, it's very easy to pin people's work here that you want to go back into and play, and or tutorials if you want to learn. Now Jared has got his first tutorial out there on Mir's YouTube channel. And the second one's coming pretty quick. Is that correct?
Yep, in the works.
And I gotta say, I watched it the other day there. He does a very good job of doing tutorial, better than I do. Mind you, I'm not that good. I'm kind of fly by the hipper. But he did a really good job, explained the basics, showed everything on screen, talked it through, and didn't go off on a tangent like I do so often. Very good job. If you're going to be playing around with this, give it a shot and follow his tutorial. It'll get you up and running real quick. And second tutorial to come soon. Next week, week after, when are you looking?
It's released this week, and
Release this
then
week.
we want to get on a regular release cadence too for more tutorials. That's actually been one of our biggest requested, not even features. It's just, hey, get more tutorials out. So more are coming, and we're posting some shorts too, just for some easy pointers as far as like, hey, this is what you do in build mode. This is an asset versus an object, things like that.
Nice. I gotta say, as a developer, who's always jumping into these game engines. Because I talked to Jarrett before we got on this call and told him about my love for exploring new game engines and how it's like my biggest hobby in the world is just trying these things out. But the lack of quality tutorials or tutorials that will cover the whole game engine in one tutorial, 2 hours long or whatever. It's like, no, no. People don't learn well that way. We like, like 20 minutes, half an hour tops, break them into chunks. People can go follow along or follow through afterwards and do it. And that's what he's done here. I mean, what was there? This last, what, 21 minutes, was it?
16.
16 minutes. There you go. So
Yeah.
16 minutes. So perfect length. As someone learning how to use an engine, that's the exact perfect time to be able to pick up the content and reproduce it and absorb it. Any more than that, and it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. So
Yeah.
I gotta say, very good job on your first tutorial. Like it, perfect,
Thank
man.
you.
I don't know.
Appreciate it.
Somebody must taught you how to do that, eh?
Just have fun with it. It's been good.
You bet. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna jump in. I'm not gonna jump. I'm gonna make a new area from scratch. I think. Eh? You think that's probably the best bet, just to give them an overview.
That sounds great.
Okay, so we're gonna go to. So this is one I made earlier. So I'm gonna go here to new space, and that one was in the mountains. But I think what I'm gonna do here is pick. I'm gonna pick the bad. No, you know what? I'm gonna go as. What should I choose?
Metro will probably be the best experience because it provides a lot out of the box, but
Which one?
Landscape's great too.
Which
Mirror
one?
Metro. So
Oh, the
bottom,
sci-fi one.
middle left.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, sure, we'll do that one. I kind of wanted to show how the nature was done well on your
go for
pre-made
it.
meshes, but I'm gonna choose the desert one. I was just trying to go between desert and canyon or bad. I'll do canyon because it looks cooler.
It's pretty sweet.
And I like how you populate with a name to so on the get go if people want it. So desert, not desert, because there's two S's in dessert, but not three. Okay,
We could make a dessert landscape at some point.
there we go. So it just takes a minute to fire this up. It's actually pretty quick, way quicker than the earlier version I used. That took a while, but
Yep. Sorry about that. That's if you check out our GitHub, we post our key priorities, open issues, things like that, and reducing the join time is one of our top
so
priorities.
so this booting process that it shows, so it's firing up an instance on your server, correct? And using
Yes.
the resources locally to populate that instance.
So it's technically it runs both the server and the client, and so that, of course it's running on your machine locally, but we do have a remote server running this. And in the future, just because I think it's a better model as a whole, we're going to move to, I guess technically it's peer-to-peer local host multiplayer. So just like you did with the old, RTS days where you host the game locally, that's the movement. That's the model we'll be moving to.
Gotcha. So you got your standard out of the box WSAD jump. I never did try. Is there mouse click movement? No. Is
Not
it?
at the moment. It's
But
been a request though.
I'm sure it's probably pretty easy to implement though through the visual scripting. And you're probably, if I had to guess, developing a visual script that just is a pre-built behavior to tag onto it.
In the future. I will disclaimer and say there's a lot of features that we don't have in there just yet, but we're working very hard at shipping these out
Well, yeah, it's alpha mode. You're gonna be,
as an alpha.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, and so yeah, click to walk. Yeah, a lot of our inspiration for the UX initially was Gary's mod. And so also, so if we essentially like throw in Second Life, Gary's mod, some Roblox aspects all together in one, that's kind of what we're going for.
gotcha. And you can see here, that looks like a skybox, not an actual atmospheric render. Is that correct? Skybox technology.
Check it out yourself. So if you hit B, that'll take you to build mode and detach the camera.
Okay.
And then just like an engine, so you can right click to drag, WSD to move the camera. And that'll take a while, but you can use the mouse wheel to increase the camera move speed.
Just gonna fly up to the top of this mountain here.
Map is massive. That's the one thing we've been debating internally is whether we should reduce these initial map sizes. Just because like there's kind of an aspect of where limitations actually breed creativity. It's this massive map size can be a bit overwhelming to start, so we might reduce that in the future.
What about just putting a scaling function on there? You know, like let people choose. Do you want to map this size, this size, this size, or this size, right? And then people could choose it. And now, is this a pre-rendered mesh? This canyon? Is it a deformable terrain, or is it like a height map that's rendered out or something?
So it's really just a mesh that we imported. Yeah, so I mean that's our height map implementation, just to keep it simple.
Okay.
And we originally started. You might see this in some of our early alpha videos. We started out with voxel terrain, but we just, I mean, you got to do this in not just game development as a whole. Cut some scopes, you can get some things out there, and unfortunately, voxel terrain is one that we cut. So yeah, this is just height map for now, but we'd love to add voxels more in the future.
Gotcha. So while we've been talking, I've just dragged these in build mode. I've just simply dragged these objects here, and then you've got your gizmos that you can move things up or down, rotate. How do I switch to rotate mode? Is there a switch to rotate, or do I just?
Yeah, QW and E will change that. Or you can also press the button on the top left.
Oh yeah, it's on the perfect. That's it. Because a lot of people just starting out are going to want to use the buttons rather than the keyboard shortcuts. So I'll click it into rotate mode, and there the gizmo switched. Perfect. We'll make a nice stone on an angle there. Then we're going to click on this, and I don't want to go to rotate. I'm going back to move, and I'm going to put this bush. I need to rotate my camera. I'm not going to get too carried away here building, but I just wanted to demo how you could just move some things around and place objects on objects. Because so many things become compound objects. Now, is there a way in here to link these two into like a smart object, tag them together?
That is on a roadmap.
Okay, okay. No, I wasn't sure. A lot of engines don't even have that capability, so I just thought I would ask because I have you here. So how much faster time can you learn how to do something and ask the developer, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So I've added those in, and I'm just going to drag something else onto here. What do I need here? What do we got? I know that we can search, so why don't we search for something? What would you recommend I search for? You know your content out here. Let's go house. Let's see if there's a house.
There'll be some stuff on House. We have a lot of building parts. If you just search building, there'll be good stuff there. It's from our sci-fi mirror metro that we created. A lot of these assets you'll see are more on the low poly side as well. Big thank you to Quaternius, Kenny. They offer their
a lot of Kenny assets, eh?
Comments. Yep, so you'll see those.
Well, I'm just going to drag this low poly house in here. Don't need to get too crazy away. I just want to demo it to people. And it does seem to have the snap to ground, like a line to ground that works pretty good most of the time from what I've noticed so far. And then of course you could tweak those as you need to. But then I can hit play mode do I just hit B again to get out of? Yeah.
You can do that? Yep.
Oh, but I'm down there. How do I transport my player up to where I was, or do I?
So if you press B again for build and move your camera back up there, there's two ways. You can either teleport with the top right button, or you can right click on your tree, for example, and click teleport.
Oh, okay.
And that'll move your character over there.
Perfect. I think it was on top of this cliff. Oh,
you can also click in the hierarchy on the top right and just double click the tree, for example, or the house, and that'll move the camera over there.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
And then you can zoom in with the mouse wheel.
Oh, I see. I was zoomed out. Okay, cool. And then now I can just right click and click on this rock.
Yeah, right click and then teleport.
Right click. Teleport. Nice. Okay, cool. Now I'll hit B again, and I'm on the house. Of course, the house needed to be bigger, but that rock was an open mesh. I didn't realize that. Oh well, these are all things. So this is one thing about why this engine's great this way, because like you said with Second Life, you can zoom in, zoom out, pop in to build mode, pop out of build mode, and in a lot of engines, you've actually got to render out, hit play on the fly, which takes a few minutes to spool up, or depending how big your levels are. With this one, you just zoom in and out of build mode right there, and now I can see this where I didn't see it in build mode. And then I can go back into build mode, easily, no, I have to just kind of move a bit, easily select that rock. What am I selecting? I don't know what I'm selecting there. My camera's at the wrong angle, obviously. Okay, easily select the rock, hit the rotate. Bring that back down to the ground, hit the move, drop it just below the ground. There we go. Take this house, and we're going to move it away from the edge. Move it over here. And then we're going to go to scale, which is this button up top here, which is it's an arrow either side, so it's pretty much a universal scale symbol. And now, is there a shift hold to scale in this?
Shift drag. If you drag on a gizmo, that'll duplicate it actually. But if you just click that center piece that you're hovered on, yeah, that'll scale the whole thing.
Oh, that does universal scale. Perfect. Okay, great. That's even easier. No need to hold the shift button. And there's the door. Perfect. Then we'll hop out of build mode again, and there, my rock is fixed coming out of the ground. Tree sitting in the air, but that's okay.
Look at that.
And there, I got a nice little house. So we just wanted to do a quick demo for people to see how easy it is to actually use this engine. And now, if I go back into build mode, I just want to show people where to access this. There's variables. Where is the scripting again on here? It's
that'll be added to an object, or you can add it a global script as well. So if you see on the right on the hierarchy, there it says global scripts right in the middle there.
Oh yeah, right here. So I can add a global script, or I can add a local if I wanted to make this burning bush with a particle effects or something. I could go here, script. Can you also, I'm assuming you can, because of being built on top of the Godot engine, everything is basically going to be a scene or an actor with a scene or an actor attached underneath, and everything will be nested to the object that they represent. So I'm assuming that we will be, I don't know if you have it in here yet, but it'll be able to right click on here or something and attach like a particle effect right to this bush.
The blend, yeah. And so we don't have particles just yet. For security reasons, we have it disabled, but you can actually import a PCK if you do this with the open source code. So you can create anything in Godot, then just export the PCK and boom, import that. That'll be an asset in your sidebar. So for some of our videos, actually, like with explosions, that was because we created the particle in Godot and then just imported the PCK.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
And that's on the, that's the long-term goal is import anything from Godot. But if it works with GLTF, that'll very easily import as well. And that's not blocked by security because it's much more safe. Gotcha. So you could create I have a video where we created a flashlight in Godot with the light nodes, export that, and then when you import that into the mirror, the light nodes carry over, and boom, you have a flashlight in the world.
Cool. Yeah, it's going to be easy to, because that's the thing, it's built on top of the Godot technology, so anything in Godot you can implement in here. Escape. There we go. Escape brings me out. So I did want to go into this one really quickly because I can update.
Looks like we got a bug there.
Yeah, some sort of bug because we just we did update.
We just released, so that one won't work at the moment. We just released like an hour ago. And so what happens during the migration process is the game's running the old version where someone's currently playing. They'll have to actually log out, then it'll get reset. So that someone's in that right now, and that's why it's not working.
Okay, so is there one here? Is there another one here that demonstrates shooting?
So if you go to Discover.
Cool. We need to demo this anyway. Perfect.
Then scroll down a little bit. Let's see. The mirror metro is still visually great. Clean room experience, yeah, that one should work. We have shooting guns in the sidebar, so you could really add shooting to any space.
Yeah, I just wanted to show it already implemented for sake of time more than anything. But this one has it, right? Or does this one have it? The eventual FPS breakout?
Someone else created that, so I'm not
Oh,
sure.
okay. But
Yeah, clean
clear
room
room?
experience we made.
Clear room.
That is, it's more of a like platformer, but you could just as easily add a gun into it. And I can jump in there too, actually. Let me check on this.
Oh, you can jump into the same instance I'm in without an invite
So
or anything?
yep,
Nice.
that's the fun part is because we're multiplayer by default, very much like Second Life and other platforms. It's just add another player in, nothing too crazy.
Okay, but you can, so as a developer, you could restrict that to certain people or certain accounts or links sent out, or you could just
Oh,
leave
pretty
it
much
wide
so.
open, right?
Yep, yeah, pretty much so.
Okay, red versus blue teams, perfect. Sure. Did you choose one? Here, I'll do it.
All right, there we go.
Oh,
And so what this is work in progress. We didn't actually do too much on this, but if you hit one of these lasers, that'll actually kill you. It's a part of
you
the.
lose.
It's kind of like a racing platformer. Then you also have guns too.
But I could shoot. Is there anything I can shoot and blow up besides you?
Not yet. Not on this map. We do have some on. But I have to double check. The
But
shooting gallery will kind of work.
the reflections are good, and the lighting though is done well. Like
Thank you.
a lot of people question Godot's ability because the default lighting settings are not like super easy, and you've got to go in and tweak things to get it looking right out of the get go. And the preview, when you go to preview, the lighting isn't enabled like the build mode is. So a lot of people get thrown off by that, and they don't realize that maybe. Maybe it does have good lighting and they just haven't done what they need to do. But this
Very much so.
room over here is a perfect example of it. Like, look at the reflections on the floor of the lighting probes. I'm assuming those are lighting probes. And my character's feet on the floor as I walk on the shiny surface. It's like Godot is very capable, and that's a white light. And if I run over here, run and jump over here, there's a yellow light, and there's a laser.
Oh,
That's all right. It
so
doesn't
nice.
matter. But it's basically the concept of it. So I just wanted to show people it's like it's very modern engine, and the mirror is utilizing it very well, and you can do a lot with it. And again, it's just in its infancy, so it's really worth checking out. I'm looking forward to when there's more functionality on the way of like a persistent world. Not so much Second Lifey persistent world, but more like Neverwinter Nights persistent worlds. You know, like
Oh yeah.
dungeon clearing and all that. So I know we talked about this in depth, but yeah, it's like this has so much potential to do that well. Whereas some of the other solutions out there, they can't do it or they don't do it well, or you never really get that feel. And I think in here that you're gonna be able to build some pretty fantastic experiences. And
Dude,
with your
yeah, spot on.
and with your assets, right out of the get go, you can almost build a sci-fi one. And if you use the visual scripting, you could probably set up your stats and stuff already. I'm not so sure about the combat. You've probably got a lot to add there before that's really super functional. But you can definitely start world building, and especially if you can create your own models and bring them in, which I know you can do. But I mean, as the end person using the platform, if you, the end person, can create your own models and bring them in, then the universe is your play toy in here.
Very much so. Yeah, that's our plan, and I love that you mentioned the more the MMO side because that's been an interesting distinction where Roblox is a good example. They do awesome stuff, but they're a little more on like the casual game side, and we see it as hey, well, what about the more complicated? Like let's make an MMO. This sounds awesome,
Yeah,
but also that all-in-one platform angle
but
to
but
it.
not even MMO. So that's a thing too. Like it's like an MMO. It takes a lot to do an MMO right. I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands of players in the same instances and all. Just persistent worlds. Like say you've got a bunch of online friends, a bunch of buddies, from the old land school days or whatever, and you guys want to go and do an adventure for an evening, and there's like 10, 15 of you. Be able to go into a world and all share that experience and not be a first person shooter, and also not be in one of these MMOs where there's so much pressure for you to, you've got to kid out, you've got to level up, you've got to play 3,000 hours a month. It's like all
Oh
those
yeah,
pressures aren't there if you're playing in these persistent worlds with just a group of buddies and having a beer and playing a game. Like that's the thing that I think a lot of people are missing that isn't really a thing right now. It's either thousands online, or hardcore, fast-paced action of a first-person shooter where you can't stop long enough to take a sip of beer, you're going to get fragged. So there's not a lot filling that in between void. This platform, I think, has the ability for people to make lots of those, where people just want to get together for an evening and go do an adventure. My mind's
Thank you.
eye.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah,
but I that's something I think is missing from the game world right now.
I totally agree. That's part of why we started this too, because you can get that. Look, there's really kind of two things with not much of an in between, where you can either play, you write like a hardcore MMO, a fully built out AAA game, or you can start your own game from scratch. And like that, where's the in between there of like, hey, let's create, Paul's Neverwinter Nights, for example. And then from there, it's like, great, now we have that casual, like we're playing together, and we have the experience of the MMO, but combined into one.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, I think we're getting a bit long here, but I think we've covered everything. The only thing that I really wanted to end this out on, a couple of things, where people find you, and that's that's itch.io. You can download the mirror on the itch.io page, and it is a free download for Mac, Linux, and Windows. There's also a web page with all the information you need and a YouTube channel. What's the web page address, and what did we find you under on YouTube?
So we're the mirror dot space. That's our website. And then we're the Mirror GDP for game development platform on YouTube, on Twitter /X, on Twitch. Love for you to check us out there. We're on Instagram and TikTok as well, but a lot of our focus has been X and Twitter and YouTube. And then we have an awesome Discord. People are building stuff. We'll post the latest creations. We'll be posting the latest updates there. Those are the main social channels. And then also check out our GitHub. If you're an open source developer, we'd be honored for you to give us a star. And we have a good community growing as a whole. So we'd love for you to join the movement.
Awesome. One other thing, two other things I wanted to throw in here that I didn't think about covering earlier, just really quickly. The open source, you actually provide all the server infrastructure, the platform development tool. You provide the whole bundle if somebody wanted to get their own instance of the mirror up and running. And that's part of what you mean when you say we are a total open source platform. Is you provide the whole kit and caboodle, and you've developed your own network algorithms. You've got your own back structure platforms in place. Everything is pretty much ready to go back end, front end for people via open source. They just got to grab it and then know how to set it up. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Spot on. And so, as you were commenting on with Roblox and UEFN, they're great products, but there's a danger zone there because you build on that and then you're forever in that. You can't get it out. And we allow you to actually, well, through the open source code, publish to Steam. By all means, publish in the Epic Games Store. You fully own the game, so you can do whatever you want with it. And then it also pairs well with some of our other conversations about like the game dev side versus the web dev side. Those are so massive in themselves, and they're two industries in themselves. So if you feel daunted by, say, the web development side, well, we provide that out of the box. It just runs. And so that could be a great starting point for whatever you want to build. And then you fully own everything you create.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Now, here's a question for you. And in this, I know that there were people asking about this on the Discord channel, which is why I'm asking. Um, if someone was to set up their own server infrastructure using your open source product, using the same version that you're currently running, and they developed on your platform to beta test it all out, but then they're ready to host their own, is there a simplified process, or will there be a simplified process to download that project and port it over to their self-hosted instance?
That's very much so. We don't have that exactly just yet, but that's on the roadmap. And the nice part at the end of the day is because we serialize everything and save it to MongoDB, which is essentially just JSON data. And so it's like, oh, here's this giant amount of JSON. That is your game. So great, spin it up yourself, import that JSON, and now you've got your game.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So there's that answer. So many people were asking it that. Well, I don't know if there's so many people, but I saw like 3 or 4 people asking about it on Discord, and that was right when you had your big announcement for your the last version of your launch you did right before GDC. So it was pretty hot topic going around there as far as I'm concerned. I was interested in it. Few short term future plans versus long-term future plans? What do you got on your roadmap?
So for this year, few key things we're looking at, and you'll see this on some of our open source roadmap. We want to do add in some key features that are needed. One being like object grouping, parenting, childing. That's very important. We also just released in-world GD script, so it's definitely also an alpha version of that within our alpha product. So it's there, but now you can go beyond just visual scripting if you want and actually write real traditional code in world. Very excited for that. And then so that paired with the object grouping, you'll be able to start doing awesome stuff like you're creating a house, like script the doors, or create a car and script the full car. And then you can actually take that whole asset, put it on the marketplace if you want to monetize it, or port it between games, and it'll unlock whole new levels of possibilities. We're very excited about that. Also, we are working on plugins for Godot and Blender. So just as we were talking about with importing particles from Godot or importing a light or a scene, the goal there is you can, if you'd like, create in Godot on one screen, build in the mirror on the other. So you create the component and then boom, that's imported into the mirror in real time. So Godot can be one of your tools to make game components with. So those plugins altogether are some of the key things along with some of the key features like object grouping that we want to get in, and that's the short-term roadmap as a whole.
Cool. Excellent. Excellent. And Mixamo support. That was something else I saw on the forums. People were asking, or on the Discord there. People were asking about if there's going to be upcoming Mixamo support or if it's already there. Because as anyone who's used the platform knows, currently supports Ready Player One avatars, but people are looking for being able to support their own models and their own creations.
Animations will be a huge key feature. And so, think about it in buckets. Like, we definitely still need more lighting because it's just a PCK or GLB import. We definitely need animations. That's like in the bucket of, okay, now we're actually towards like a beta type product.
Right.
So that's why we're still using
That's
the
on,
alpha.
but that is on the roadmap towards the end of the alpha, but kind of on the rollover to the beta sort of thing.
Yeah, it's very much so.
Okay, cool.
And we do have some base support for importing anything with that Ready Player Me skeleton.
Yes.
And so there's more incoming there. One of our team members did some good work, and we'll post more about that. It's very rudimentary at the moment, but you're right. That is the long-term goal, is to be able to animate anything.
Well, and I'm sure in your tutorials you'll have a full tutorial come probably soon, coming soon down the pipe on getting the Ready Player Me avatars in, or how to do that. Because I think a lot of people don't even know what that is or haven't used them. So, my suggestion: do one of those soon. Maybe after your
Yep,
part two.
we'll
Get your own avatar in. It's like, here you go, people. Customize your game.
Absolutely. And yeah, that was a big time saver for us, is not needing to create a character system.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just boom, here's
gets
Ready Player
people
Me. So
gets
great
people
for that.
in soon, fast, using the platform, learning it, liking it, loving it. Yeah.
Yep, very much so.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we've kind of run over time. I mean, I'd love to keep this interview going forever, but I don't think YouTube will let me post it that long. So I'm going to end this interview right now. And people out there, I hope you like this. It ran a little over, but there was a lot of information. And Jared, thank you so very much for agreeing to do this interview for me. I am such a
Yep.
small channel YouTuber, but I am passionate about game dev, and I love interviewing you guys and seeing what makes y'all tick behind the scenes. So thank you very much, sir.
You, Paul. Appreciate it.